What's up, everyone? Justin here, back with episode 3 of my What the Fuck show. WTF, episode 3, What the Fuck? On one of the considered, and I agree, it is up there with one of the worst fucking god awful, embarrassing wrestling pay per views of all time. It was so bad. It was not good shit. It was bad shit. People want to bitch, or some fans today in 2020 want to bitch and complain about WWE being bad. And Raw is so bad. And Raw sucks. And some of their storylines are some of the worst ever. And some of the WWE shows in 2020 have been some of the worst ever. Well, then you must have never seen the pay-per-view Heroes of Wrestling. That's what this episode 3 of What the Fuck, that's what I'm dedicating this episode to. Heroes of Wrestling, one of the worst pay-per-views of all time. I watched most of it about, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. And it was just so fucking bad. First off, it should have not been called Heroes of Wrestling. Should have been called Mid-Carders of Wrestling. Talent that was over the hill. Shouldn't have been in the ring. Was just really just out of shape, or I'm talking about the talents. Should have not been in the ring. Really out of shape, and some of them, yes, on pay-per-view, were fucking drunk. Or drugged up on some type of pills or some shit. So anyways, I'm going to review it and go over the matches and just give my opinion, and it won't be a nice opinion. It won't be good. I'm gonna shit all over it, and that's what this What the Fuck series is all about. Me unfucking censored. That's the title. What the fuck? Episode 3 on one of the worst pay-per-views of all time took place October 10th. 1999, so 21 years ago. Heroes of Wrestling. Again, it should have been called Mid-Carders of Wrestling, because I would only say about 2 to 3 guys, or maybe 4, 2 to 3 to 4 guys on it were only like really good main event talents that could cut great promos or were main eventers. So let's just talk about it. Heroes of Wrestling again took place October 10th, 99 from a fucking casino. I'm sure barely any people were there. A casino in fucking Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. I don't know where the fuck that is. I don't care. That does not sound like a hotbed or a great state or city for wrestling. I'm sorry, Mississippi is not. Maybe St. Louis, the city, but not some fucking little town in Mississippi with some casino. The event was meant, now I'm reading part of this description off the internet. The event was meant to be the first in a series of pay-per-views that would feature popular wrestlers from the 80s and early 90s. Again, it should have been called Mid-Carders of Wrestling, not Heroes. Because you want to, let's say, okay, they got some real heroes. Wrestling heroes of a lot of fans. That fans loved and looked up to from the 80s. Well, they didn't get Ric Flair. They didn't get Sting. They didn't get Hulk Hogan. They didn't get Randy Savage. 4 of those guys right there were heroes of wrestling. A lot of these guys on the show were mid-carders. I'll name a few that were main eventers, but not for their whole careers. They weren't main eventers. So it was just, God almighty, it was just doomed from the start. It absolutely was a failed idea. Whoever thought of it, whoever put money into it to put this show on pay-per-view was just a fucking dumbass retard that, again, this is me uncensored. I will not censor myself. I'll say anything I want to say. I'll be right back in a second, by the way. So again, it was doomed. It was failed from the start, and I will rip Heroes of Wrestling, the pay-per-view. I will say anything I have to say to describe it. Whoever fucking put money into the show to put it on, the promoter, whoever the fuck he was a fucking dumb ass motherfucking retard. If you're offended by the R word, too bad. I'm uncensored here. This is what the fuck. This is not politically correct, this show. You can't tell by the title, WTF. If you're offended by that, you shouldn't be watching. If you're offended by cursing, don't watch. Turn it off. Because I'm going to curse a lot here. And I don't give a fuck. So, this show could end up getting me kicked off YouTube. Who knows? But my videos are not made for kids. I always click that my videos are not for kids before I upload them. So, it was just one of the worst buy rates of all time. Really bad, poor buy rate. Not many fans bought it because it was shit. And it was just one of the most disastrous, god-awful shit, just badly booked main event of all time on pay-per-view. It featured a really extremely drunk or drugged up Jake the Snake Roberts. He did a promo. I might have to watch it here. It was so bad. It's sad and embarrassing. I felt sad for Jake Roberts. The guy was definitely, probably still is, an addict. Will always be an addict. I hope he never goes back to drugs or alcohol. I hope he goes to AA still. Or I hope he has a support system in place. But my God, Jake Roberts, the guy, the promoter, the booker who booked him, what the fuck did you expect? Jake Roberts was an addict. He was there for a payday to get drug money or alcohol money. I don't know what he did with the money. He probably needed it badly because he was gone from WWF. They got rid of him. I'm sure Vince couldn't take it anymore and just didn't want him around. I don't know if he fell off the wagon in 97 when he was still in the WWF for a little bit. I don't know what happened and why he disappeared. He showed up in ECW for November to Remember 98. That was not good. He looked out of shape. He looked like he didn't fucking care. He's there for a payday. Couldn't get a job with ECW full time. Didn't want to be there. Couldn't go to back to WCW. Couldn't go back to WWF. But the Heroes of Wrestling promoter fucking hired a drug addict or a drunk. Bad move. Bad idea. What the fuck did you think was gonna happen when you hired a addicted addict Jake Roberts in 99? Holy fuck, it was bad. So let's read about the controversy. By the way, the attendance somehow was, it says on here, this info page about Heroes of Wrestling, the attendance was 2,300. I doubt that. I think that's a fucking lie. I don't believe that. That's probably fake news. By the way, go out and vote. Vote early. Vote on election day. Fucking vote like your life depends on it. Fucking vote. Vote Trump out. But that 2,300 fans, I don't believe that at all. And the commentators, it was just horrible. The commentators were Dutch Mantel. I like him, but he sounded like he didn't want to fucking be there, and he was embarrassed. Dutch Mantel was one of the commentators, and some other guy. I don't know who, but one of the original commentators, I guess, was supposed to be Gordon Soley before he passed. Gordon Soley's great, well respected in pro wrestling. But shortly before the event, Gordon Soley got sick with throat cancer. So he could not do the show. Maybe it would have been better to hear Gordon Soley's voice on Mid-Carders of Wrestling pay-per-view, but I doubt it would have helped that much. Because you still would have had a fucking train wreck with a lot of old wrestlers that just couldn't go anymore. They didn't have it. They were not in their prime. And it showed. And a lot of the matches did not work. None of the guys, none of the opponents had chemistry. None of the matches were good. They were all fucking shit. Except for one. One was okay, which I'll talk about. So instead you had Dutch Mantel and Captain Lou Albano was on like one or two matches, or maybe he's I don't know, maybe he's a full-time comment. Maybe he's there too. So Gordon Soley's replacement was some guy named Randy Rosenblum. And he appeared, and it was obvious, he appeared to have no fucking knowledge of pro wrestling, what it was, how to call it. He didn't know the moves. He didn't know what the fuck to say or do. He just stole the promoter's money. The fucker didn't know about pro wrestling and how to call it and how to call the action. It was god-awful, embarrassing. The guy had no knowledge of pro wrestling. He was one of the worst color commentators ever for a professional wrestling event on pay-per-view for sure. Rosenblum repeatedly made mistakes during the broadcast. He was misidentifying wrestlers. That's fucking embarrassing. And he should have been fucking knocked out for that. Or fired immediately for that. He didn't know the countries the wrestlers are from. He didn't have any, he had no clue of how to call wrestling moves. He didn't know the names of them. It was embarrassing. So simply, it was just shit. He couldn't even call a drop kick. A simple fucking drop kick. Instead, he was calling it a drop kick. He was calling it a flying kick. What the fuck? And then he was calling also he would call a drop kick not just a flying kick, but a flying leg kick or a leg drop. Good God. That's embarrassing. If you don't know the name of a drop kick and you're calling a wrestling pay-per-view on like nationwide, worldwide TV or TV, whatever, wherever it's broadcast in the US or Canada, that's embarrassing. You don't know what a drop kick is. You call it other things. I'm surprised they didn't call it a hip kick or a foot kick or an ankle kick. The fucking dumbass, Randy Rosenblum. Fuck you. You were an embarrassment. Thank God you never worked in wrestling after this show. You were shit. At least Dutch Mantel respects the business and knows a lot. Did commentary before in WCW in 91. Captain Lou Albano's a legend. He respected wrestling. He knew the business. And he was okay at commentary. Now let's get to the Jake the Snake Roberts incident, where the show was remembered for this, sadly. It was supposed to be a double main event, Jake the Snake against Jim the Anvil Neidhart. And the other main event was King Kong Bundy against Yokozuna. I will say Jake the Snake was a main event talent for a little while. Jim Neidhart was not. He was part of one of the greatest tag teams, but I don't see him as a main eventer. King Kong Bundy was a main eventer for a short time. He actually main evented WrestleMania 2, so you can't say the guy never drew money or main evented, because he did. Jake the Snake drew money. He main evented for a little short time, but not any major pay-per-view. At least King Kong Bundy main evented WrestleMania 2. Yokozuna, he was a main eventer for at least 2 to 3 years. He really was. He main evented WrestleManias. He main evented, defended the world title at the Royal Rumble, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. Yokozuna was the fucking man. He was a great big man and a great WWF champion. So I will say Yokozuna was a main eventer. From like 93 to 90... the end of 94. 95, they didn't really use Yokozuna that good. And he was starting to get way too overweight, sadly. So Jake Roberts, I'm trying to get to what he said. He suffered a relapse during the show, or he was already it was in a relapse. Maybe he's on a fucking binge, a drug binge, or an alcohol binge, or maybe he's on a bender, maybe he's up for like 3 days. I don't fucking know, but it was sad and embarrassing. So during, I guess, it says prior to the show, I don't know how the fuck they know this, the internet. But they say prior to the show, Jake Roberts consumed a lot of alcohol before the event, before arriving. Good God, that promoter really did get his money stolen by a addict. Shouldn't have paid him. That fucking promoter should have been locked up for paying a guy that was drunk to wrestle. He could have fucking killed his opponent, dropped him on his head. The match was just god-awful when Jake the Snake made it to the ring. So prior to the match, Jake Roberts was supposed to cut an interview, a promo backstage. It was god-awful, and he was just so goddamn drunk or high on something. His promo was just him slurring, incompetent, incoherent, ranting, couldn't even barely talk. It made no sense. It was like an Ultimate Warrior promo, but it was Jake Roberts drunk. It was sad. Really sad. And shame on the promoter for fucking paying him if he showed up drunk. The promoter is kind of like caught in a rock and a hard place, or whatever the hell this saying is. The promoter was kind of fucked over, because if he didn't pay Jake, then he couldn't have appeared on his pay-per-view, even though it didn't help with buy rates. So this is one of the things Jake the Snake, I believe, said in the promo. You don't want to play cards with me because they're in a casino. Because I'll cheat. Okay. And then he stops talking. And then he says again, I cheat. And then he says, you want to play 21. I've got 22. You want to play blackjack? He says, I've got 2 of those too. Whatever the fuck that means. You want to play aces and eights, baby? I've got too many of those too. Whatever the fuck that means. Then after the interview, Jake staggered, stumbling, almost falling over, staggered to the ring with his snake. I'm sure it wasn't Damien. The poor damn snake was basically held hostage with a drunk guy holding him. So anyways, Jake attempted to put the snake down in return. He got to the ring. Somehow he didn't fall over. Then he put the snake down and attempted to return and go backstage. What the fuck? And then he came back. He returned to ringside greeting the fans. Before entering the ring, Jake removed his snake from the bag. And not that snake, his pet snake. I'm shocked he didn't pull his other snake out on pay-per-view and piss in the ring. He was that drunk, folks. I'm surprised he didn't piss on the floor or mats. Like a dog. Like the dogs did at Unforgiven 99. Pissed outside the mats and inside Hell in a Cell. For the Kennel from Hell match. Which, holy fuck, I could do a What the Fuck episode on the Kennel from Hell match from Unforgiven 99. 99 was a great year in wrestling. But you had a lot of weird, dumb, bad shit happen on live shows. So, then he removed the snake and acted like he was masturbating with it. Good God. The event's producers had to cut into a wide shot and show the crowd during the incident. And then Jake had a female fan. He grabbed a female fan and had her rub his chest with her hands. What the fuck was that? That's like assault. In efforts to salvage the match between Jake, and then Jake eventually collapsed in the middle of the ring with the snake draped all over his body. Maybe this was after the match. I don't fucking remember, but then he began to try to kiss the snake and make out with it. Because that's smart. Try to make out with a giant fucking python. You'll probably be choked to death. In efforts to salvage the match, the promoter, Bill Stone, one of the dumbest men on earth, hopefully he was blackballed from pro wrestling after trying to run this show. On the fly, he combined the main events into a tag team main event, sent Bundy to team with Jim Neidhart and Yokozuna to team with Jake Roberts. And that was a fucking mess, that tag main event. So Bundy then pinned Jake Roberts by hitting him with a splash, and Jake then staggered and Jake had staggered and fallen around the ring several times during the match. So Yokozuna and Henry was Michael Henry, a member of the production team. Yokozuna and Henry attempted to salvage the event and Roberts' reputation by trying to goad Roberts into attacking Henry, making his behavior appear unscripted, which it wasn't. He was legit high or drunk. It was sad and embarrassing. So then it was just bad. Yokozuna hit a Samoan drop on Henry, so it appeared to be unscripted. Jake Roberts began to disrobe, take his clothes off. Jake began to disrobe in the middle of the fucking ring, and the producers had to cut the feed immediately. Holy fuck! I never heard that. That show. Good God! What the fuck? Began to strip, and I guess I had to cut the pay-per-view off early. Holy fuck! That's a train wreck. I've never heard that story. I am so glad I didn't order this pay-per-view. I heard about it, and I was kind of interested and curious, but I didn't get it. So let's get to the results. Up first, you had the Samoan SWAT team, which they shouldn't have been teaming anymore. Samu and the Samoan Savage. They were kind of pretty much out of shape and not even full-time wrestling. The Samoan SWAT team defeated Marty Jannetty and Tommy Rogers. It was not god-awful, but it wasn't a good match. It was not good. Win 10 minutes. Up next, Greg the Hammer Valentine shouldn't have been wrestling in 99. Shouldn't have been on pay-per-view. Greg Valentine with sensational Sherry somehow. They got her to manage him. Greg Valentine defeated George the Animal Steel. Greg Valentine, George the Animal Steel, wrestling on pay-per-view in 99. Not a good idea. What the fuck? I love George Steele. Loved him as a kid. Rest in peace. I'm not bashing him. It's not his fault. But why have Greg Valentine wrestle him? So that match is just bad. It was 6 minutes. It was a train wreck. Up next, you had Too Cold Scorpio defeat Julio Fantastico. It was not that bad. It was 9 minutes because Too Cold and Julio Fantastico were not bad workers, and they were not really old guys by 99. The Bushwhackers appeared. Good Lord. The Bushwhackers took on and defeated the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov. The highlight was probably the Russian national anthem. And Iron Sheik saying, Iran number one, Russia number one, USA, pooh. That was probably the highlight of the match, I'm sure. I don't remember much of it when I watched. It was not good. All four of those guys should have not been wrestling in 99 on a pay-per-view. This match was probably the best of the night. Tully Blanchard, Stan Lane, former Horseman against former Midnight Express member. I thought it was really good. It was the best match of the show, at least. I don't know about really good, but it was the best match of the show. Tully Blanchard had a really good promo before the match, or that was pre-taped on the pay-per-view. He had a good promo. Good Lord, up next, Abdullah the fucking Butcher is hepatitis C carrying fat fuck ass. Abdullah the Butcher defeated or wrestled the one-man gang. It was a bloodbath. I think they both started bleeding. It ended in a double countout. It was just shit. I love One Man Gang. The guy was awesome. But he shouldn't have been wrestling the fucking Butcher. Abdullah the fat fuck Butcher, he shouldn't have been wrestling him in 99. Jimmy Snuka, the murderer. Jimmy, the murderer, Snuka, with Captain Lou Albano as his manager, defeated Cowboy Bob Orton. Why were they wrestling in 99 on pay-per-view? It was embarrassing. The main event, Jim Neidhart, King Kong Bundy defeated Jake the Snake and Yokozuna in 16 minutes. Holy fuck, what the fuck? Really? Why did it go 16 minutes? It was shit. It was not good. I am sure of it. It was not fucking good. Let's try to find some videos on this Heroes of Wrestling show. Again, it was so bad. The whole show is actually uploaded on YouTube if you want to watch it. The whole show. 2 hours, 33 minutes. That's way too long. It should have been about 2 hours. It was just garbage. This Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view was so fucking bad. It was embarrassing to watch. And I love wrestling. I'll watch any type of wrestling just about. Except deathmatch wrestling. I won't watch it unless it's from Japan. So anyways, I'll watch just about any wrestling. I'll give it a shot and a try. This Heroes of Wrestling pay-per-view was fucking horrendous. It was embarrassing. It was just about unwatchable. If I would have to give it a grade, it would get a Z. A Z grade. The last fucking grade of the alphabet. That's what this pay-per-view gets. If I give it a ranking from 1 to 10, you'd get about a minus 100. It was horrendous. It was god-awful. It was embarrassing. It was shit. It was crap. It was garbage. It was a dumpster fire. It was horrendous. It was just one of the worst pay-per-views of all time. And you can put up the AWA had some bad pay-per-views, super clashes. But the AWA was not as bad as Heroes of Wrestling. The AWA bad show, Super Clash 4 is really bad, like unwatchable just about. Not unwatchable, but it's bad. Super Clash 4 is bad, and Super Clash 3 is bad from the AWA. And some bad WCW pay-per-views there's been. There's been some bad WWF pay-per-views. Remember December to Dismember? What the fuck was that? I'm going to do a show, what the fuck show about December to Dismember. Well, I don't know when. Maybe in December I'll do that. Heroes of Wrestling, one of the worst shows of all time. I hated it. I can't believe I sat through it. I think I fast-forwarded through a lot of matches. I couldn't take them. But it was so bad. What the fuck? Heroes of Wrestling, you were absolute shit. Hope you enjoyed What the Fuck, Episode 3, Heroes of Wrestling. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Bye for now.